Some of the most famous hotels in Las Vegas might not exist next year. I need you to hear that. Not rebranded with a new name. Not renovated and reopened. Shut down. Doors locked. Lights off. The building you're looking at in photos right now, the tower you're considering for your trip, the name you've known your entire life. Gone. And if you have reservations at any of them, you need to know right now. Before you book another night, before you put down another deposit, before you build a vacation around a property that might not be there when you arrive. I've spent weeks on this, analyzing debt levels, tracking occupancy collapses, monitoring ownership changes, following the money, following the rumors, following the patterns that precede closure. The signals are there. If you know where to look. I've ranked 10 properties by how close they are to the edge. Not speculation, evidence. The same warning signs that preceded every major casino closure in Vegas history. Some of these properties have months left. Some might have weeks. And one of them will genuinely shock you. Let's count. Number 10, the Strat. That tower at the north end of the Strip. You've seen it. Impossible to miss. Over 1,000 feet tall. The observation deck. The thrill rides at the top, the needle piercing the Vegas sky. From a distance, it looks like it belongs. Up close, it looks like it's dying. The Strat sits isolated, marooned at the far north end, away from the foot traffic, away from the energy, away from everything that makes the Strip feel alive. Tourists don't wander up there. They have to make a decision to go, a deliberate choice, and increasingly, they're choosing not to. Occupancy reportedly below 50%. 50%. Half the rooms empty on an average night. The observation deck generates some revenue. The thrill rides pull some visitors. But you can't sustain a 1,000-room hotel on people who come for the view and leave without gambling. The tower is iconic. The business model is broken. Number 9, Excalibur. The castle. That medieval fantasy rising from the desert, turrets and towers, and the promise of something magical for families who wanted Vegas without the edge. The families stopped coming, not because they don't want family entertainment, because Excalibur stopped providing anything worth traveling for. The theming feels tired now, dated, a fantasy from the 90s that never got updated for a generation that grew up on better. Room rates have climbed while the experience stayed frozen. Budget positioning with non-budget pricing, and the guests noticed. Heavy discounting isn't filling rooms. Properties offering rates they would have laughed at 5 years ago, and still showing availability. When discounts don't work, demand isn't suppressed. It's destroyed. Excalibur is bleeding. Slowly, steadily, waiting for someone to decide whether the bleeding is worth stopping. Number 8, Circus Circus. The clowns are gone. I mean that literally. The circus acts that gave this property its name and its identity. The trapeze artists, the acrobats, the performers who used to work the midway while families watched in wonder. Discontinued, eliminated, gone. The Adventure Dome sits half-maintained. Rides closed for repairs that stretch months. The promise of indoor theme park fun delivered at half capacity. If you're watching this channel, you know what happens when a property stops investing in its identity. Subscribe now, because this list gets worse, much worse, and the patterns I'm about to show you apply to way more than just Vegas. Understanding how properties fail, how the warning signs stack up, how to read the signals before everyone else, that's what this channel is about. Circus Circus has stopped investing. The rumors have swirled for years. Conversion to non-gaming use. The land valuable. The operation not. The property worth more as something else than as what it currently is. Those rumors haven't gone away. They've intensified. 3 properties. The Strat isolated at the north end. Excalibur bleeding guests it can't replace. Circus Circus abandoning the identity that made it matter. All struggling. All showing warning signs. But still in the warning zone. Still surviving. Numbers 7 through 4 are different. These aren't properties showing warning signs. These are properties where insiders are actively planning for what happens when the lights go off. Number 7, Tropicana. This one's already dead. The announcement was made, the closure dated, the demolition planned. One of the oldest casinos in Las Vegas. Opened in 1957, survived everything Vegas threw at it for nearly 70 years. Gone, replaced by a baseball stadium. The Oakland A's needed a home. Vegas wanted a team. And Tropicana's land was worth more as a stadium than as a struggling casino. So they killed it. Not renovated. Not rebranded. Killed. The building that hosted legends. That watched Vegas transform from mob town to corporate playground. That stood through every boom and bust this city has ever seen. Demolished. Erased. Replaced. I put Tropicana on this list for a reason. Not because it's news. You probably already knew. Because of what it proves. No property is too historic. No name is too famous. No legacy protects you when the math doesn't work. Tropicana was iconic. Tropicana was beloved. Tropicana was Vegas history. And none of that mattered. When the land value exceeded the operational value lost. When the spreadsheet said demolish, sentiment didn't get a vote. When ownership decided the future was a stadium, 70 years of history became rubble. That's the lesson. That's the proof. That's what makes the rest of this list so terrifying. Because the conversations that happened about Tropicana, the evaluations, the calculations, the cold math about land value versus operational value, those same conversations are happening right now. About other properties, names you'd recognize, towers you've stayed in, decisions being made about their future, behind closed doors, in boardrooms you'll never see, by people who don't care about your memories or your reservations or your plans, just the math. And you won't hear about those decisions until it's too late, until the announcement drops, until the closure date appears, until the property you booked becomes the property that doesn't exist. Tropicana was the first domino. It won't be the last. Number 6. Flamingo, the oldest resort on the Las Vegas Strip. Bugsy Siegel's legacy, the property that started everything, the name that transformed a dusty desert crossroads into the entertainment capital of the world. 1946. That's when Flamingo opened. Before the Rat Pack, before the corporations, before Vegas became what Vegas became. Flamingo was there first, and now it might be among the first to go. Same ownership as Tropicana. Same parent company that looked at 70 years of history and said, tear it down. When a company closes one property, they evaluate all properties. Every asset gets examined. Every building gets measured. Operational value versus land value. What it makes versus what it's worth. Flamingo sits on prime real estate. Center Strip, irreplaceable location. That land is worth a fortune. The aging hotel sitting on it, making less every year. When land value exceeds operational value, we already know what happens. We just watched it happen to Tropicana. Number 5. Linku, connected to Flamingo. Same ownership, same evaluation. The high roller observation wheel dominates the property. That giant Ferris wheel visible from everywhere on the Strip. One of the most photographed attractions in Vegas. The wheel is valuable. The hotel attached to it, increasingly questionable. Thin walls, small rooms, an experience that promises young and hip and delivers cramped and loud. Review scores sliding. Occupancy struggling. The link exists because the high roller needed a hotel attached. But the high roller doesn't need that specific hotel. It needs a hotel. Any hotel. A better hotel could replace Link tomorrow and the wheel would keep spinning. That's a dangerous position. Being replaceable. Being the weakest link in a chain that only needs the links to connect. Number 4. Planet Hollywood. Prime location. Dead center of the Strip. An address worth billions. And a property drowning in problems. Caesars Entertainment owns Planet Hollywood. Caesars Entertainment carries $12 billion in debt. $12 billion. Interest payments alone crushing over $1 billion a year. When you're drowning in that much debt, every asset gets evaluated. Every property measured. Not by history. Not by sentiment. By math. Planet Hollywood, Flamingo, Link, Paris, Caesar's Palace itself. All owned by the same drowning parent. All being evaluated by the same cold calculations. When restructuring comes, and it's coming, someone gets sacrificed. Not everyone survives. The question isn't whether Caesars closes hotels. The math requires it. The question is, which ones? 4 Caesars properties on this list. 4 properties owned by a company that can't pay its bills. 4 potential sacrifices waiting to be named. But numbers 3 through 1 aren't about corporate debt. They're about properties where the problems run even deeper. Where the decisions have already been made. Where the owners are just running out the clock. Number 3. Sahara. How many identities can one property have? The original Sahara opened in 1952. Old Vegas Royalty, the Rat Pack Era, Sinatra, and Swagger. Closed in 2011. Reopened as SLS in 2014. Completely different. Modern. Minimalist. Designed by Philippe Starck. That didn't work. Rebranded again in 2019. Back to Sahara, trying to reclaim heritage, trying to find an identity that sticks. 3 names in a decade. None of them working. The North Strip location fights against it. Foot traffic shifted south years ago. The energy, the density, the natural flow of tourists, all happening somewhere else. Sahara sits isolated, waiting for visitors who don't come. Weekday occupancy reportedly below 40%. 40%. 6 nights out of 10, more than half the building sits empty. You can't survive that. Not for long. Properties that can't find their identity eventually stop trying. Sahara has tried 3 times, each attempt more desperate than the last. The 4th attempt might not be another rebrand. It might be a for sale sign or a demolition permit. Sahara can't figure out what it wants to be, but at least it's still trying. At least money is still being spent. At least someone still believes there's a path forward. Numbers 2 and 1 are different. These are properties where the trying has stopped, where investment has dried up, where the owners have made their decision and just haven't told anyone yet. One of them will genuinely shock you. A name so famous, so iconic, so synonymous with Vegas itself that you can't imagine the Strip without it. Gone. And another one following the same path. The Death Watch. That's next. Number 2. Luxor. The Black Pyramid. That beam of light shooting into the sky, visible from space. The Sphinx guarding the entrance. The promise of ancient mysteries meeting modern excess. When Luxor opened, it was unlike anything Vegas had ever built. A genuine wonder. Now it's a warning. Half the tower converted to convention space. Not because conventions are booming, because hotel guests weren't coming. The Egyptian theming that made Luxor special has been systematically abandoned. The Nile River attraction, gone. The immersive experience, gutted. What remains is a pyramid-shaped shell, a building that looks iconic from outside and feels hollow within. When a company stops investing in a property's identity, they've already decided its future. They've stopped believing in it. Luxor hasn't been invested in for years. It's being harvested, not maintained. Harvested. Extract what you can, spend nothing. Let it decline until the land value exceeds what the building produces. We know what happens then. Same ownership as Excalibur. Same ownership as Circus. Multiple struggling properties under one roof. When cuts come, the weakest goes first. Industry insiders point to Luxor. The pyramid that changed Vegas might be the next to fall. Number 1. Mirage. This one hurts, because Mirage wasn't just a hotel. Mirage was the moment Vegas became what Vegas is. 1989. Steve Wynn opened the Mirage and everything changed. The volcano out front, that iconic eruption every hour, fire and water and spectacle that stopped traffic on the Strip. For 35 years, that volcano defined Vegas. The image on every postcard, the background of every photo, the thing you told people about when they asked what Vegas felt like. The volcano is cold now, permanently. The property sold, the closure announced, the era ending. Hard Rock International bought it, plans to transform it into something else. A Hard Rock hotel, a guitar-shaped tower, the Mirage name erased. Another icon deleting itself from the Strip. If Mirage can close, anything can close. Read that again. Mirage, the property that invented modern Vegas. The volcano that defined an era. Gone. Not because it was failing catastrophically, because the land was worth more as something else. Because the owners saw more profit in demolition than preservation. Because sentiment doesn't get a vote when spreadsheets make decisions. No name is sacred. No history protects you. No property is too famous to die. 10 hotels, 10 levels of risk. And the pattern is clear. Vegas isn't preserving its past. It's liquidating it. The properties closing or at risk share common traits. Aging infrastructure that costs more to fix than replace. Debt-burdened ownership making desperate choices. Land value exceeding operational value. The math pointing toward demolition. Every property on this list fits the pattern. Some have already fallen. Some are falling now. Some have months left, maybe weeks. before announcements that change everything. If you're booking Vegas, book carefully. Check ownership before you commit. Research recent news about the property. Have backup plans ready. Understand that reservations at struggling properties come with risk. The risk that your hotel becomes a headline before it becomes your vacation. More closures are coming. Not speculation. Math. Too many rooms. Too few guests. Something has to give. Tropicana gone. Mirage gone. Who's next? The flamingo that started it all? The pyramid that defined an era? The castle that promised magic to families? A name so famous you can't imagine the Strip without it? The closures aren't stopping. The math doesn't allow it. The debt demands sacrifice. The land values demand demolition. The spreadsheets demand decisions that sentiment can't overrule. If you're booking Vegas, book with eyes open. If you're booking these properties, book with backup plans. If you're holding reservations at anything on this list, think carefully about what happens if that reservation disappears. Because the lights that blaze tonight might be dark tomorrow. The tower you're admiring might be rubble next year. The name you trust might be a memory before your trip arrives. Vegas isn't warning anyone. Vegas doesn't give notice. Vegas just announces. And by then, it's too late. 10 hotels on the brink. Some already fallen, some falling now. The only question is which name appears in the next headline. And whether it's a name you already booked